Good evening and welcome to my How Healthy Are You weekly educational podcast. My name is Dr. Thomas Brewer. I'm a PhD chemist and nutritional blood microscopist. In this week's call or podcast, I'm going to be talking about how Dr. Mercola helped me realize the importance of vitamin D optimization. So most of you have heard of Dr. Mercola. He's pretty well known in the health industry, and he's very big on something called natural medicine. So even though he's a doctor, he believes in a lot of natural ways to heal the body and let the body heal itself. So he's been very vocal about the utilization of vitamin D in years past, and especially last year when COVID-19 was raging. Now, I was first introduced to some of Dr. Mercola's work when he was a keynote speaker at a biohacking conference. And biohacking is kind of a strange topic because it's the utilization of various foods and patterns, even some drugs, to get a result that's a little different than what most people would expect. I knew nothing about this at the time, and I looked into it. The easiest form of biohacking is from various people that put fats in their coffee. So there's a coffee brand called Bulletproof, and they sell other things, but they were one of the first to utilize this term biohacking. So in a simple sense, it's the effect of putting something like coconut oil in your coffee, and it goes off from there. There's many, many examples. But this podcast isn't about biohacking. It's about vitamin D optimization and immune system optimization. So as most of you know, vitamin D plays a crucial part in the strength and activity of our immune system. And it has a direct correlation with our ability to fight off viruses. And that's been of paramount importance in the past year. So Dr. Mercola was a big advocate of not taking too much supplemental vitamin D and trying to get your vitamin D from being in the sun. So as I had mentioned in previous podcasts and newsletters, when you're in the sun, your body converts cholesterol to vitamin D. So the sunlight is the energy, the reactant is cholesterol, the product is vitamin D. So that's a good thing. And if you have the ability to spend a little bit of time in the sun every day, typically 10 to 20 minutes, you'll be able to make enough vitamin D that would be optimum. Well, not everyone can do that, and sometimes it's so cold out, you need to wear clothes which are going to block the UV light from the sun. And in some places like where I'm at, it's too hot to be outside. So people supplement with vitamin D. And then the next thing that comes up is how much. So most people that supplement with very large doses of vitamin D, that would be greater than 2,000 IUs per dose, the body doesn't absorb it well. A lot of it is wasted. So the optimum dosage for vitamin D is between 1 and 2,000 IUs a few times a day. And that could be just twice a day. So when we get a standard chemical analysis test for our nutrients, right? So it's a nutrient test, normally known as a micronutrient test. One of those results will be for vitamin D. And if your levels are good, just optimize it and keep them good by getting a little bit of sunlight every day. And if they're low, you'd want to supplement with vitamin D, which has a profound influence on your immune system and the strength and activity of it. Well, when I learned this years ago, it led me to focus more on other ways to optimize the immune system. And what has an even bigger influence is something called plant sterols. So plant sterols are sometimes known as sterolins, and what's also linked to sterols and sterolins is their glycosides. So there's a link between sterolins and their glycosides. And when I studied this, I realized that basically they're just plant fats. And chemically, they're somewhat similar to cholesterol, but vastly different. Cholesterol is only something that can come from an animal species, so plants do not produce cholesterol. But these sterols, they are similar enough to cholesterol that they block the body's ability to absorb cholesterol from our diet. So sterols were studied initially for this purpose. So they would take sterols from plants, and the product would be Sterol Max. And you would take that when you're consuming a lot of animal-based food. That would be eggs or beef, red meat, anything with cholesterol. I mean, chicken has cholesterol also. So all meats and eggs, animal products, dairy would contain cholesterol, and people would take these sterols to block the absorption of cholesterol. And it works great. Now, people can still have high cholesterol if their liver makes cholesterol. But if they're getting most of their cholesterol from food, that's a great way to reduce the absorption of the cholesterol. But it turns out sterols have an even better influence on the body. Is they make the white blood cells larger, which makes them stronger, and it makes them move, which makes them active. So the internal part of the white blood cell will actually move, and that's something I can see during a blood microscopy. And I'm always looking at people's white blood cells, and it's one of the most important parts of a blood microscopy, because if a client's white blood cells are large and if the internal space is moving, I know they're going to have great resistance to any virus, any parasite, any pathogen, and even any cancer cell. They typically have longevity. So people with active white blood cells typically have good longevity. And a way to get there, if your white cells are not big and active, is to take these sterols. Now, not all sterols are alike. What is important is the glycoside ratio to the sterol. And the Sterol Max product is about 100 times more active than the next leading sterol product. And these sterol products are very hard to find. But the second place is 1% as active, which means there's really no comparison. And that is why I encourage people that have a weakened immune system, a broken immune system, such as an autoimmune disease, anyone that is concerned about their body's ability to fight off anything, including any virus, Sterol Max is the product to learn about. And that's something you can call me. You can look at my website, and you can look at my other podcasts to learn more about Sterol Max and, in general, how to improve your immune system. So that's all I have for this week. If you'd like to learn more about plant sterols and health and longevity, like I said, please check out my website, drthomasbrewer.com. Thanks for listening.